All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm Nancy Narden. I'll be your host today. I'm with Smart Selling Tools, and I'm really excited to have two special guests with me from Genesis. I asked them to participate because they have figured out an excellent way to, as the webinar title says, deepen relationships, but more importantly, to an end, which is to better align with customer objectives. So I would like to first introduce Kaylee Hogan. She's the Senior Sales Enablement Program Manager at Genesis. And Jeff Mudd, he's the Enterprise Sales Director at Genesis. Welcome, both of you.
Hi, thanks,
Thank
Nancy.
you. Glad to be here.
Just for the audience, I just want to let you know that we are recording this. So if you want to listen to it again later, you want to share it with your colleagues, you'll be able to do that. And to set expectations, this is just going to be a conversation. All right. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint. It's not going to be a demo or anything like that. We have two very experienced folks on the line, and they're going to share with you how they figure it out the best way to build these relationships and grow their account business and improve quota attainment and all the good things that come along with that. Kaylee, let's start out by talking about what does Genesis do, right? I did read a quote, a very interesting quote, that you deliver 70 billion remarkable customer experiences for customers. That's a lot.
It is. I'm going to let Jeff talk about it a little bit, though, because he and his team talk about it all day long. Though I will say that on Monday, it was our 30th birthday at Genesis. We feel like a startup every day, but we're officially 30 years old this week.
Happy birthday.
Sure. So Genesis, for those of you that don't know, is a market leader in what is often thought of as customer experience. I mean, historically, it's been call center technology or customer service technology, but the market certainly has evolved over time, and certainly Genesis is a leader in that market. At the end of the day, what Genesis does is we provide technology that helps our customers engage with their customers at the right time, through the right channel, whether that's through voice when you call up a company that you're working with or need to contact, could be over digital channels, such as chat or text or what have you. But actually through our innovations in the cloud and now through the use of artificial intelligence and some of the partnership technologies that we've partnered with, some of the companies, we're actually creating a whole new category here at Genesis called Experience as a Service. And at the end of the day, what that's trying to do is provide at scale the ability for our customers to engage with their customers in a highly personalized manner, trying to provide empathy during that interaction to provide the best outcomes possible. Here at Genesis, we estimate that we actually handle almost 70 billion customer interactions on an annual basis. So it's a large company. I'm certainly glad to be with you here today.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've been in enterprise sales for a long time. And how important is selling to larger companies to Genesis? Okay. Well, I want to get into a little bit about how you're using that tool. But first, let me have maybe each of you describe what it is that Refugee does, just so people have a little bit of context. Who wants to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. So Refugee to me is a tool that we use for account planning and also opportunity planning. So we use it for our strategic big picture as well as our tactical alignment with our customer. So in order to advance through a sales process, you have to develop a relationship with that customer. You have to understand what matters to them, where your solution fits into their strategy, and how you're going to move forward with that customer. So we use it to define who the people are, what the priorities are, and what the progress is for those particular accounts. Jeff, I feel like you'll have something to say too.
Look at Refugee as really an enablement tool. It allows us to come to the table and have a different dialogue with our customers. Certainly, there's a lot of collaboration tools that we use internally, but I guess most importantly, it is designed to collaborate with your customer, right? So we'll capture things that are important to our customer, such as their strategic goals, their key initiatives, their key projects that they're working on, and make sure we're in alignment with what's important to our customer. So it really helps change the dialogue and change the perception of we're just a vendor there to sell you something to something that's much more strategic. And so from that perspective, it's certainly a game changer when working with our enterprise accounts.
So Kaylee, as a sales enablement lead, you were responsible, I take it, for implementing Refugee and getting a solution that can help with the things Jeff just talked about. What were you using before?
So it was a combination primarily of a manual PowerPoint template that several of the senior sales leaders with a plethora of experience had developed. We have a pretty advanced solution. So going in and configuring the right pieces, getting the right stakeholders on the same page and pitching the same thing to the customer, that was all encapsulated within this PowerPoint. We also used a competitor of Refugee in a small group. So a subset of like 130 people had some relationship mapping functionality, but that wasn't really adopted. So in the grand scheme of things, that process lived for about 3 years, and there were 170 account plans put into our Salesforce instance, which counts as the real deal. So effectively, to me, there were only 170 ever completed with that manual process.
Okay, so what were the challenges with doing it that way?
I'll let Jeff answer this one.
It's been my experience that historically, account planning has been done, using a PowerPoint template, maybe some, various spreadsheets accompanying the PowerPoint. AE spends a tremendous amount of time on it. It gets reviewed early in the year, and then oftentimes it gets put in a drawer, and it's not overly effective. Now with Refugee, we actually have a digitized account plan that is updated constantly. It is a living, breathing account plan that the entire team associated on a particular account has got accountability to, with key actions, key tasks. Everybody's on the same page. It's easily shared amongst the executives so they understand the initiatives we have going on with the accounts, the relationships, our strategies there. So it's just a completely different paradigm of account planning and opportunity management as well.
Okay. Give an example of how it helps you execute versus, say, using a PowerPoint or a spreadsheet, which I imagine a lot of people on the call today are probably still using those types of tools. So what does the difference look like in real life?
There are multiple tools we use inside of Refugee, one of which is called a relationship map. Think org chart on steroids. What I ask and what I coach my teams to do, first of all, we're going to create multiple relationship maps inside of an enterprise account. One of the first things I ask them to do is build what I call the corporate level map at the C-suite, potentially including the board of directors. Also the various lines of business that are inside of this organization. If done right and done well, I can take a look at a corporate level relationship map and understand exactly how this organization is put together, right? How they're organized. Then what we'll do is we'll actually drill down and build additional relationships maps at the individual lines of business. So very important. It also gives me the opportunity to understand third-party influence, right? Whether it's a management consulting company or other vendors or what have you that may have influence inside of the account. And I certainly want to understand those areas of influence. Another critical map that we use is called the strategy map. I often coin it the money map. It's so important. This is where we actually capture the high level goals. I mean, that the CEO and CFO are, providing at the annual, quarterly reports kind of thing that they're tracking to. And then the key strategies and initiatives that they have to move the needle on those particular metrics. Incredibly important. One of the most difficult things about the teams when they build a strategy map is it has to be built in such a way that it's as if the customer was building it, right? It's not in our words, it's in the customer's view. So it's sometimes a trick. It's not the easiest map to build and get it right, but when done right, oftentimes we'll go into a meeting and our customers will ask, hey, can I have a copy of that? That's amazing. Right there, they appreciate that we've done our due diligence and we understand, their company and what they're really focused on. It gives us an opportunity also to kind of map the executives to each one of these key initiatives and strategies and who's got MBOs, right? Executive compensations to it. I've actually had account teams print strategy maps out on like poster boards and take Sharpies into a meeting and try to validate our understanding of their business and what's important to them right there in the meeting. Highly impactful. This is probably the one map more than any that is often, collaborated and validated with the customer. Extremely powerful.
It helps us validate what we know. It helps us uncover what we don't know, and it helps us come off as really credible to that customer, which deepens the relationship. It helps us align to them so that we're not just another vendor with what we call in sales enablement productitis. We're actually aligning to the customer on what business problems they're trying to achieve. And so some of Jeff's customers will actually ask for copies of those customer strategy maps at the end of these meetings. And I tell all the other reps, that's what you want. You've done this right. If your customer's going, holy crap, you understand my business. Can I get a copy of this so I can show it to my manager? That's really what you want. I've even had reps pull up the customer strategy map with the customer in the room and say, what is your CEO asking you guys to accomplish? What is your guys' team leader? What is your boss's peer trying to accomplish? What's the group in marketing trying to accomplish, all to accomplish this, achieve $4.5 billion in revenue that you guys are trying to accomplish. So I think that those are all the things within the customer strategy map that drive a ton of success. The thing that I always have to remind people of, though, especially because we're so conditioned to focus on sales, is to not just focus on the line of business and the goals and the strategies and the projects that they have that we're targeting and talking to, because that's just one slice of the pie. You really want to look at the big picture. You want to say, what is the CEO trying to get you guys to do? What are the leaders below him putting in place? And then what is your group responsible for that? Is this how Genesis is going to help you achieve that goal? Great. Okay, we're validated. So anyway, I get very passionate about the customer strategy map. Thanks to Jeff.
It looks, to me, I can imagine that customer or your customers, when they're faced with you talking to them about and asking them questions about their true business challenges and showing that you've done the homework and, you've got something to show that they can actually work from, you're probably doing some more work than they have even done. As you say, Kaylee, they wanted a copy of it. But I think maybe more than anything, you're helping to differentiate yourselves against your competitors because you're showing, look, we're not just trying to pitch products here. We're trying to actually solve challenges and help you meet those challenges in the best way possible. And that makes a big impression on customers.
That's one of the principles of account planning that Jeff and other leaders at Genesis, I feel like, instilled in me very early on, even with the old manual template, is you have to put the customer at the center and you cannot focus on what you as a company are trying to accomplish. It's all about them and aligning to what they're trying to do. So the more you understand that, the more that you can align your business to it and speak in their language and provide that value, the more you're going to maximize the relationship. And then the competition won't even be able to have a conversation with them. They'll say, I'm sorry, I'm actually working with Genesis on that. I don't even have time to entertain a conversation with you.
Right. Why would they want to have to go through it all over again? They're already in a partnership or a relationship with you, and you've done a lot of work, and so have they along with you. So that makes sense that they'd want to maybe just not even, why bother with someone else? You mentioned earlier, Kaylee, that one of your reps had sort of been hesitant to use Refugee. So let's talk a little bit about the adoption. If we're going, and Jeff, pipe in as well, but if you're going from a PowerPoint and a spreadsheet, maybe a rep is just, they're doing their own thing, right? And so they're probably happy with it. They're comfortable with it. Let's put it that way. How do you go from that to getting all of the reps to take advantage of the tools that you have from Refugee?
I'll start, and then Jeff, you finish, because I feel like it's a couple of things. I think it's really like a partnership. It's not just a I built you guys like an account plan in Salesforce, and now you have to go fill it out. Like, that's not the way that you go and you iterate on a process and change it. You really want to build interactive pilots where you're collecting feedback and you're partnering. The people that are end users of this product are actually, they have a seat at the design table when you're building it. And so I sought out Jeff early on. We actually were in sales training together when we both started at Genesis 2.5 years ago. And I learned early on that he was a master of this. So I sought him out and other leaders that were strong in the account planning space. And to me, that's what really helped drive the interest in the pilot and getting the right feedback of what people actually need in there, and not just building things that we thought they needed. So that was one huge thing. And then also engagement with leaders like Jeff. So if it's just a top leader saying, I want you to fill this thing out, but there's no management engagement, there's no management like Jeff looking at it and then helping them take that to the customers and coaching them on how to talk about it, it's not going to succeed for very long. It's going to be the shiny new thing, and until the next shiny new thing comes along, but that's not the case here. Our account planning adoption has been extensive. I told you it was 170 account plans in 3 years of the old template. Our first year of Refugee, we had 2,577 account plans created. So it was exponential.
Wow. Right. I think naturally when you're rolling out, a new technology, whatever it is, from a sales enablement perspective, the sales force and individuals in your sales teams are going to fall into one or three buckets, right? Some will get this. They'll love it. This is the way they operate. This is the way that they think. Now it's just a mechanism to help them get organized, and an enablement tool to help them have that dialogue that they want to have with their customers. You'll have others that'll fall into the category of compliance, right? They'll do it because there's a deadline or they've been told to do it, and we have an upcoming account, strategy review, and there's a mad dash into the tool to update it, and they don't get a whole lot of value with it. Then you get those that are just too cool for school, right? They've done it the way they've done it for a long time. They've been successful. Maybe they get a pass. I don't know. But, things aren't going well and we're not using this methodology, then that kind of is a whole different type of conversation. But to help with this, I would encourage a couple of things. One, the adoption of this really needs to come with the support of the sales executives, right? It's got to come top down. You've got to walk the walk. So if we're in a review, with some of our sales leadership, they need to demand that, we're using the tool to do the review, or we're getting ready to have some executive bridging where we would like our chief revenue officer to have a conversation with this organization's CIO. They need to ask for the assets inside of Refugee as the basis of their understanding of the organization, the conversation they're about to have. So that's one. It's got to come top down. Second, I would certainly encourage sharing best practices early and often. Success stories, right? Someone who's closed a large deal. How did they leverage Refugee and some of the assets inside of Refugee to assist? That tends to get people's attention when they understand best practices and the success that the sales force is having implementing the technology and the methodology.
We also didn't put strong requirements around hey, you have to fill out an account plan, X number of times. I think, and it wasn't you have to fill out this, and this in the account plan. You don't have to fill out the internal goal and action plan and the customer strategy map and the relationship map and. Those are all recommended, but people find their own flow. And so as Jeff said, bringing best practices, we had what we call an impact series. And that's just a webinar with our whole sales team where we brought other sales leaders, some sales reps from different regions. And we said, how are you using this? Show us some of your plans. I feel like some people get like Jeff said, in the doing it for compliance bucket, they don't realize the potential of this thing. And they're kind of scared until they see other people's work. And then they're like, whoa, I can do that in there. I can get all the stuff that was in my head that I have to explain over and over and over to people that's wasting my time. And I'm having to type in spreadsheets and emails and all over the place. I can just send it in a picture and they can get it in 30 seconds. Whoa, I think that just makes a huge impact. And Jeff's right. Getting leaders to buy into it is really important, but not just sales leaders. I have leaders within product who will not get on the phone with a customer until they've seen an account plan. They want to understand what is going on, who's who in the zoo, what's our relationship with them, what is their preference towards Genesis as a company. And I think that all of those types of things are what are also helping drive, the adoption, the success, the collaboration. Like, account planning is meant to be a living, breathing process. It's meant to be a collaborative exercise. So getting people out of the mindset of, I'm here to present a presentation to you guys about what I know about this account, and instead pulling up Refugee and saying, hey, I'm going to collaborate with you guys. I have this really complex customer I need to do X, Y, and Z with. Here's what I know. Brain trust. What do I do next? And then having the collaborative session. That's the thing that just like hits it home for me. In fact, if I could show you, I have goosebumps right now because I'm just way too passionate about seeing that collaborative effort for people. So Refugee does it for us. And we were even so successful, we've launched opportunity planning in May of this year. And I think in tandem, so the customer strategy map on the account plan of, what are they trying to accomplish in the next year? What are the big strategies they're putting in place? What projects and programs are competing for time, money, and resource? And then at the, once you've seen where Genesis is fitting into that, then switching over to the actual tactical deal review and understanding where we're at in terms of mutual agreement with the customer and close date agreement. I think that's all, additional benefit that Refugee can add if people are interested in pursuing that. So it's the full suite. There's a ton of success around that. We call that other thing on the opportunity plan the joint evaluation plan, but I think it might be called something else like native functionality in Refugee. So,
okay. But so basically it can provide a roadmap for really understanding the customer's challenge from an account perspective, meaning all the different business divisions and the people and players that are involved in that. And then you can actually start to use it as a tool to review deals and to not have to remind yourself what's going on, to not have to continually bring others up to date because they can just see the plan and they're part of it. They're part of this living, breathing plan.
Yeah, so much so that the groups that weren't even involved in the originally it was just a sales tool. It was a tool for our sales team to use. And now we have people in pre-sales and in marketing and in post-sales that all want edit and view access. And they now use it as a collaboration point so that, again, there's no throwing the customer over the fence. Like, there was a theme at one of our sales kickoffs, because we do experience as a service. We don't want our customers repeating themselves. So at the sales kickoff, it was press 1 to stop repeating yourself. I love that. And I think that tools like Refugee from the strategic account planning lifecycle standpoint helps accomplish that. And then transitioning into the tactical deal management perspective, it makes it so that the expectations are clear from the customer side. They have a trusted relationship with you. They know you're going to deliver what you're saying you're going to deliver. And then they keep coming back because they have that partnership. I've seen this happen with some of our reps. So it's really cool.
So it's turned from what maybe people might think, oh, here's a tool we can use, to here's a platform that probably is just as important as the CRM platform, right? So it's a platform that everyone in the organization is getting used to using and benefiting from. I want to talk about, you mentioned the customer success team. So now we've got sales reps using it. The sales leadership, Jeff, you mentioned how important it is for sales leadership to get behind it, customer success. Everybody has to have something they're getting from it where they feel like they're benefiting, they're getting more from it than they're having to put into it, right? So they're getting value. What has been some of the sales leadership benefits where they're saying, hey, this is something we really don't want to do without this tool anymore? Or ever again?
Well, if you look at Refugee from a success standpoint, if you look at Refugee, I've got firsthand experience. I was fortunate enough in a previous company to run and head up the adoption of a new strategic account initiative. So we went through a tremendous amount of investment for our top 30 customers, both in additional sales force, dedicated resources, what have you, to drive additional revenue. We also made the investment in Refugee, right? Is that way that we were going to have a new dialogue with our customer. In the first year, I saw year-over-year revenue growth of 40%. I can tell you also during that first year, we doubled our pipeline. So fantastic results from a revenue perspective. If I also go back and look at the account teams that were highly successful, 9 times out of 10, they were the ones that were really adopting and utilizing the tool itself. So I've seen tremendous results. If you're going to look at it from a revenue perspective, they're certainly there. And you can also see it from our customers and the engagement we're having with our customers.
So let's talk about some of the metrics, right? Because when we came up with the title for the webinar, certainly deepening relationships, that is key. Being able to align to what the customer's needs are, that's key. But it's really all to serve an end result, which is a win-win for both the seller and the buyer. So on the seller side, on your side, the win would be, quota attainment. How is it actually helping? Jeff, you talked about the revenue itself, but is it making a difference on quota attainment?
Again, I think if you go back and look at it, the teams that are really adopting the Refugee tool are probably the most successful. I talked a lot about the internal collaboration, and we use something inside of the Refugee tool called the goals, objectives, and actions, often referred to as the GOA. And we try to rally around kind of 3 dimensions inside of our account plan. 1 is revenue. 2 is executive customer relationships. And 3rd is customer success. And typically over a multi-year period. So we're not just looking in the here and now, we're trying to, build predicted revenue, over time, not just this year, but the next year and the following. So let's talk about revenue for a moment. So we'll have a revenue goal, let's say in 2020, that we want to drive X amount inside of this account, right? And we want to grow that revenue by 20% in 2021, and then so on in 2022. So that's fantastic. It's an aspirational goal. So then inside of the goal, as you can capture, okay, what are the sales initiatives and sales cycles that we want to engage with this account in order to make that happen? And it gives an opportunity for the entire account team to understand the sales cycles that we have in flight or we're about to start to help us achieve that revenue, right? We track it, there's accountability, team members are involved, et cetera. Very powerful. Customer relationships, right? We would all like to have higher level, C-level relationships, both executive bridging between our company and our customer, as well as various, VP and senior vice president, types of relationships as we move throughout the year. We want to improve them. So we have a section inside of our account plan that helps us do that, right? We have a goal. How are we going to meet it? What are the actions we're going to take to try to improve our relationships? And the same thing is true with customer success, all right? In order to be sticky inside of the account, what type of programs, events, reference types of programs, speaking events, awards, what have you. This is really where the customer success manager from the account team gets involved in well. So how are we going to work with them to make sure our customer is successful throughout the course of the year and multi-year for that matter. So we really rally around this thing called the GOA, and it helps the entire team stay organized as we move forward with this strategic account.
I'll say we gotta, sorry, Nancy, to cut you off. I just want to chime in a little bit to what he said. We recently sales leader too at Genesis, and she has just been all about and so supportive of account planning and opportunity planning. She's brought data and metrics from Refugee directly into her leadership reporting. We have a pretty solid tech stack, but Refugee is one of the top tools that she's looking at, and she likes to go in and check that the top deals for regions and X number of accounts for whatever threshold, that they all have account and opportunity plans, because that helps make sure that it that people are hitting their number. But I feel like the hitting their number thing is like the short-term sales focus, the ROI there. And Dick even asked about like the return on investment for us. I think it's not even about landing the sale and having them, there's usually higher deal rates, quicker close rates. But the thing that to me is an industry best practice that I've seen, and I would say as we're adopting it, we're starting to see this, is increase customer satisfaction. So upwards of like 20%. So less cases, less of your CSM having to go defend the renewal because the customer seeing the value, the expectations were set clearly up front for the deployment, and so everybody's on the same page. So I think that there's all these different ways that we're looking at and using the data. And then the final thing I'll just chime in is like other groups like marketing. We do account-based marketing here, and they had a template that they wanted to use for to run campaigns for our enterprise accounts. And it looked almost identical to an account plan. So rather than having people iterate on a process, why not just give them the account plan so that they're able to use that information? The sales rep is able to answer the few outstanding questions that they have and not continue to spin their wheels getting resources allocated to this account. So I think it's I don't know where, I can't give you an exact ROI, but there's just so many places where I see the value. Last thing is also just recruiting and ramping up of people. Jeff, you can probably speak to this. Bringing in an enterprise rep to an account that they've worked with in the past, if they don't know what that account's relationship is with your company, they might be like, what am I walking into? Well, if you can reassure them that you have an account plan and that they can get up to speed on stuff, that takes away some of the guessing game, and it helps them get up to speed and build the relationship with the customer, pick up where the last person left off, and even better it. So those are all huge.
Good point.
Good
point.
Yes, sometimes unfortunately there's turnover in the sales force, but by the use of Refugee, kind of gone on the days of all that knowledge and information and activity just kind of walks out the door, or there's a mad scramble to do some sort of transition, trying to get all the various assets and PowerPoints and Outlook contacts and what have you from the account executive that's leaving the team. We now have all of that information in this digitized account plan, and the entire team understands that account plan. And it is true, I've actually used that fact from a recruiting standpoint. So I have some top talent that I'd like to bring onto the team. They're kind of not walking into the abyss. We have a well-developed, very much captured account plan that we can share, they can walk right into, and that the team certainly understands. So from that perspective, it's been certainly an asset to us.
Yeah, good point all around. And I think it's something that maybe folks don't think about, but if there is some turnover, which there is in every company, and there may be more so in these days and times, but to have all that information already stored and documented and not have to scramble and ask the customer embarrassing questions because you're trying to get up to speed can make a big difference in just perception and satisfaction with the relationship. We are out of time, but I do want to ask one last question, which is that I heard that Refugee won Program of the Year in 2019 under your guidance and leadership. Really, what do you feel contributed most to that success?
I would say it's the partnership. The fact that Jeff and I are both here shows you that it's not just me in sales ops pushing something out or him in sales leadership pushing something out. It's truly a partnership. And if we were to promote Amelia Giddens, who's our CSM in the audience here, she would say that that's, and she's told me that that's the thing that she thinks like sets us apart in terms of success is Jeff has a seat at this table and he brings people to me. He gives me feedback all the time around Refugee and how we can improve. And I think that along with going and getting feedback from other groups has been phenomenal in continuing its success. So I will not take any credit for getting Program of the Year. It was all the feedback and pilots.
Yeah, I give Kaylee all the credit. You certainly need a Kaylee on your team to make this successful. Then just great job. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I will point out that, you know, without someone who is open to and in fact seeks out participation from those who are going to be using it, which, believe it or not, that happens all the time, where someone just wants to roll it out and I know what's best. So it's to your credit, Kaylee, that you have such a partnership with Jeff and Amelia on the Refugee side. So we are out of time, and that time went by so fast. I feel like there's so much more that we could learn from how you're benefiting from the tools that you put into place. I want to thank you both again for joining us today. It's been very informative, and we sure appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for your time, Nancy. If anyone wants to connect and ask more questions about account and opportunity planning, feel free to find us.
There you go. There you go, everyone. And thank you to the audience for joining us today. Again, look for an email tomorrow about this time, and we will include a link to the recording. Thanks again, everyone, and have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.